All right. Good afternoon. Good evening. It is 9:30 on a Tuesday. Welcome to Main Event Fantasy. Glad to have everyone here. Thanks for stopping by. My name is Nick, aka Perfect 216, and we're ready to draft some best ball teams, some fantasy football teams. If you don't know what this is, we're drafting fantasy football teams right here on Underdog Fantasy. It is my favorite place to do this. And when we draft on Underdog, you're doing best ball drafts. What that means is there's no time commitment during the regular season because you draft your team and the best teams play automatically, or your best players play automatically. No trades, no waiver wires, none of that stuff. And that's why I'm able to draft hundreds of teams. And we're at the 101 in this draft. Sorry, I'm jumping in a whole lot quicker, jumping in hot today. I clicked on this before we even launched the stream. And, so I'm a little bit early on here. But I'm over 450 drafts, getting closer to over 500. And then we'll probably be closer to 700 by the time we get to the start of the regular season. Because these are best ball drafts, that's how I'm able to draft over hundreds of teams, is because these are these best ball tournaments. If you're not familiar with Underdog, here is a quick throw up of the map. If you are in one of these yellow states, congratulations. You are eligible to play on Underdog Fantasy as long as you meet the age requirements for your state. And if you check in my description down below, you'll see a link with a promo code. You can use promo code Perfect216 and you can make your first deposit on Underdog Fantasy, and you'll get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. So lots of money to be gathered here. I would highly recommend you take advantage of that. That's a lot of free money that you can use when you join Underdog Fantasy. So with that, our first draft tonight is the Flock Contest $10 entry. And I'll go over a little bit more details on that in here just a second. But if you wouldn't mind, throw a like and a subscribe down there, and we would appreciate it. If you do subscribe and you have notifications turned on, you'll see that I draft usually between 10 p.m. and midnight every night, with a few exceptions. And I'm going to do that all the way up to the start of the regular season. And then I will continue to stream updates on the teams. We'll take sit-start questions. We will talk about daily fantasy and sports betting and all of those things as the season progresses, and keep an eye on our teams. So where are we? Let's take a quick peek at what's going on in front of us here. So the draft starting out, let's see, pretty normal across the front. Yeah, no surprises other than Achane pulled up into the first round and Puka all the way at the 12. That's Puka at the 12 is a little bit of a surprise. Gets Puka St. Brown. That's a little more on the rare side, but nothing too crazy. Bucky Irving going really early is crazy. I don't see him being in that class as Achane, Genty, and Henry, but could be wrong, and sometimes I am. All right, as we turn this around, you'll see my ranks here, and you'll also see them next to the average draft position, the ADP, and that's what the market values these players at. And so I always often look and prioritize ADP. However, I will let my ranks be the deciding vote if I'm unsure on a player I want to grab. So we're sitting here at ADP. We're pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and take Josh Jacobs, and then when you look at my ranks, I have Trey McBride over Tyreek Hill. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab Trey McBride and skip Tyreek Hill on this one. So we'll start out Jamar Chase, Josh Jacobs, and Trey McBride. And we're going to feel fantastic about it. And then just give me 1 second here. I will be right back. I just have to do one quick thing. All right, now we're back. Sorry about that. The cat jumped into my room here, and she likes to mess with stuff, and she doesn't want to come on stream, but she sure likes to close and open my door every 5 seconds. So if she wants to be famous, all she's got to do is show her pretty little face, and everybody will get excited to spend some time with her. All right, so just trying to see what's going on here. The board, nothing too fancy here. No too crazy starts. It is a little bit rare for Jefferson and AJ Brown to be in the same, to be on the same team. So that's kind of a nice start for there. A lot of you are probably starting to get into your redraft leagues. I know I've got some of mine coming up. I prioritize them usually the last week of August is when I like to draft redraft teams, so I can make sure I pay attention to all the news and don't draft somebody now and then find out that, they got injured in the preseason or training camp and, now they're out for the season and I was too busy and I just threw it down the tube. Josh Allen gets hurt, pulls a hammy, out for the year. And then all of a sudden, I drafted him on my team and, now my team's dead. So highly recommend if you're doing redraft leagues with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers, whatever, don't let them start the draft too early. Have patience. I know you're itching to draft. If you want to draft, Underdog, best ball drafts, this is how you should be doing it. Feels good tonight. Week 1 of the preseason is definitely done. It's complete. I was kind of looking at some information. Y'all know I always try to come prepared. And I watched a lot of the games. But what I found interesting was how the usage was in week 1, and that can be a little bit telling on some of the different teams. So I jotted down some notes that I will cover for some of the teams and see if they mean anything. I thought that it was interesting that Luther Burden for Chicago actually entered the game after Devin Duvernay and Tyler Scott. So does that mean he's the number 5 option on the team? I don't know. Maybe he's just working his way up in the depth chart, has to earn that. And that could be a fine sign. I still wouldn't worry about grabbing him. I still think he's a fine pick where he's going. I don't want to have a lot of them, but I'm perfectly grabbing some of them. But it is worthy of note. Colston Loveland did play the first couple of drives, had 100% route participation, 50% target share. Kmet was off because he's a veteran, but I do think that he'll keep getting playing time, and as long as he stays healthy and shows out, I think you'll see him inch his way into the season. But I think you got to be a little bit cautious with where he goes. There's other guys that get drafted in that same range that I like better because they don't have the competition like Cole Kmet on the team. So just something to kind of be aware of. All right, so I have DK Metcalf rated higher than DJ Moore. So I am going to grab him there. And then we kind of have a few choices here. I'm not going to just go by my ranks. I'm going to try and grab some values here where I can too. So I guess I will still get DJ Moore as well. Since we're talking about Chicago. So now we've got Josh Jacobs, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, and Trey McBride is kind of the start of our team. I would have probably liked it if Jalen Hurts would have made it back to us at that turn, but did not happen, and that's okay. He often doesn't because the A.J. Brown drafter lately has been taking him in the 4th round. And I have gotten Hurts on some teams already with Chase and with Devonta Smith at the 4-5 turn. So it won't be that extremely uncommon to have that happen. See if I can look through some other notes. I think it's worth noting that it's interesting with the Saints. Kendra Miller's not been healthy, and he did play a good amount. He played 82% of the snaps over the first 3 drives, and they took him out. But he did have 67% route participation, and I do think that that's a good sign for him. As long as he can stay healthy and make plays in the field, I do think there's a chance we see him have a shot at a good role this season on the team. And then same thing for Juwan Johnson. It'll be interesting to see what he does this year. Not having with Taysom Hill injured, I do think that it's worth noting that he may have a more increased role than he has in the past in the offense. Let me see what else is worth noting here. Yeah, Jackson Dart. So, dude looked like a baller in his first game. Now, granted, it's preseason. It's game 1. He's playing with the twos. Let's not get too excited, but he did go 12 for 19, 154 yards and a touchdown, scrambled twice for 20 yards, and then rushed for 4 more yards on a designed run attempt. He definitely shows the upside, and I think the important thing to note here is if you're trying to figure out the quarterback situation there, he did come in before Jameis Winston. Winston's the 3. He's already at the 2 on the depth chart. I really believe that the only way he doesn't get in is if when you look at Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson and the Giants start out really well in the season, they're winning a lot of games, they're doing well, I think he'll continue to play. I think if they don't, which is more likely, then I think you're going to see Jackson Dart come in earlier, because I really think that they want to get him on the field and see what they've got with him sooner than later. And if he keeps having showings like this, I don't know how they're going to keep him off the field. And quite frankly, I don't think they should. He was my highest rated quarterback in this year's draft. So I think that he would be a phenomenal option there, or a phenomenal player. All right, we are on the clock. We're going to take Olave and DeAndre Swift to be our number 2 running back and our number 4 receiver. I feel good about this. The only, we do see the 2 week 5 buys here. That's okay. That doesn't matter, because you're getting a whole team, having a couple of players with the same buys at a position where you're going to have multiple players is not that devastating in a tournament like this. So you should be just fine. One thing from the Giants, from the running back room, is Singletary played. Scatterbo didn't play because he was a little bit banged up. But with Tracy playing, and Singletary did mix in, and Singletary did have a better route participation from a passing standpoint, that doesn't get me excited about Singletary, but it gives me more concern about Tyrone Tracy. And so I'm kind of lowering where I want to take the Giants players in every draft from the running back room. I don't love any of them, and it's a little dicey. And if I'm going to take a shot on one, I kind of want it to be Cam, just because he's a rookie and there's a little bit of unknown there. But there's still a risk, right? And where these guys are getting drafted, I definitely don't love it, because they're all kind of in the same spot. It's a little different for the Jaguars, because, let me see if I can find my notes on them. So with the Jaguars, see, they have that 3-headed backfield thing that everybody's talking about. I don't think it's going to be that way. Travis Etienne played, and he played 100% of the snaps that Trevor Lawrence played. And no other running back played when he was in the game. He had 67% of the attempts and a 14% target share with an 88% route participation. Guys, that's crazy. I think what I've said all along in the beginning of this year, I think he's the right running back to have on this team. If you're going to take a shot, Bigsby's not terrible. But I definitely think that Tutin's probably not the guy I want, unless Etienne completely craps out, which I don't see that happening this year. I think he may get some flashes at the end of the year, but if they're all going again in the same area, I'd rather have Etienne, and I think he's going to be the right one to have. I think he's going to get passing down work, first down work, may lose a little bit of goal line work, but there's so much work there with the passing game, and he's still capable of getting some touchdowns, that I think Travis Etienne is definitely going to be the right player to own. So that's my hard take on that. We'll see if those signals change with the rest of the preseason as it plays out. But barring any injuries or bad performance, I just don't see it. I don't see it, my friends. Um, I do think that we have to pay attention to the Tennessee Titans in particular. One guy that I've called out as I think is going to be a huge, huge player this year for them. And that is going to be, let me on the clock. I'm going to take Cooper Kupp here. And then let's see. Fields Party. Sorry. Take ETN. I do think that when you look at Chig Okonkwo, he had 100% route participation with the starters. He's shown a lot of progression. He's shown a lot of athleticism. I said it in his rookie year, the guy's an athlete. He's a great talent. And I think they're going to feature him. And he may even be their number 2, if not number 1 weapon. So if you really think about him, I still say that they could be using Chig like Arizona uses Trey McBride. And if that's the case, to get him in the 17th, 18th round, and some drafts, people are not even drafting him, I think Chig is a absolute smash round 18 pick. I really do, especially if you're looking for our third tight end. He's my favorite pick in the late rounds. Mixing him in with K. Dotton are my favorite 2 at the bottom. All right. Pretty balanced team so far. I like what's coming to us. We're not really falling around or falling behind in anything. We'll have to see how the quarterbacks play out. We just went on a quarterback tear a little bit here because Murray Mayfield went before us, and then we passed on some of these because we don't have correlation with Fields, Nix, Purdy. I was kind of hoping Caleb Williams would come back to us and pair him up with DJ Moore. But we do have some options later. We have Pittsburgh with Aaron Rodgers. We have Sam Darnold with Seattle and Cooper Kupp. Or we can make some back stacks work as well. So this is probably, when we don't get a quarterback and we're getting into the 10th round, we're probably going to be looking at a 3 quarterback build. Luther Burden goes. Bateman goes. See, I think Burden, I just kind of talked about him. He's kind of coming off in the preseason as the wide receiver 5 right now, trying to earn his spot. Bateman's going to be the 2 in Baltimore's offense. I just think that doesn't make sense why Bateman doesn't go as a priority over, like there should be a bigger gap here, in my opinion. All right, we're coming back up in the clock. We got Drake May, Detroit, Jacksonville. We got some things we could do here. I'm thinking one of our picks maybe is Trevor Lawrence. And this is interesting. Brandon Ayuk is still there. Okay, so I think what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and grab Trevor Lawrence and Brandon Ayuk at the turn. Trevor Lawrence as our first quarterback does have some legs, so there's some rushing upside there a little bit. And then Travis Etienne could be a pass catching back. They do come together. And then when you get Trevor Lawrence, a lot of people are trying to stack him with, of course, Brian Thomas, or of course you have our everybody's fun favorite rookie, Travis Hunter. You're perfectly capable of backstacking these guys and still making it work by grabbing people like, the tight end there. DeAndre Swift season. Is it cool if I send over a trade I got? Yeah, absolutely. Send me what you got. Thanks for the subscription. I appreciate it. We try and go live every night between 10 and midnight. Love to have you on and love to chat with you. If you're not familiar with what we're doing, these are best ball drafts. We're doing it on Underdog Fantasy. It's what we do usually every night. But we talk about redraft. You can throw your trade stuff at me. I'll give you rankings, whatever you need. I'm here to help. All right. So DeAndre says 12 team, full PPR, 3 flex. Interesting. 3 flex. You don't see that all the time. T-Law, McCaffrey, Hampton, Drake, London, Tet McMillan, Kraft, JMO, Olave, Downs. Got sent Jay Jettis for my McCaffrey. So they want Justin Jefferson for McCaffrey. They want you to give McCaffrey for Justin Jefferson. Is that where, am I catching that correctly? You've still got. So the problem you have is, I think Justin Jefferson for McCaffrey is a fair trade one-on-one. The concern you're going to have is you still have to start 2 running backs. So other than Hampton, who else do you have at running back? Because right now, if you get Jefferson, you're going to start him, Drake London, probably Tet McMillan, right? And you might mix it, and depending on, you could probably trade somebody like Jameson or Olave or Downs, or even a combination of the 2, and get another running back who's elite and take that spot. Is probably what I would do. So, but I'm also a huge Justin Jefferson fan. I think he's extremely talented, and people are willing to trade him because of this Achilles thing that's scaring people, but I think he's going to be fine. I really do. And I have no problem drafting a ton of him. Give me 1 second here. So it's coming around to us here. Let's see what's on the other side of this. Okay. So we'll just grab Jake Ferguson as our second tight end. We'll be done at tight end there because we have our elite one with Trey McBride. And then we'll keep the wide receiver train rolling. We'll get Cedric Tillman. With Tillman, please know, I try and tell people all the time that when you're looking at guys like Cedric Tillman, when you're late in the draft like this and you're trying to find people that can impact your team, are the chances he's going to play over Jamar Chase, DK, DJ Moore regularly? Probably not. However, when he's the wide receiver 2 in an offense that's probably going to have to throw, and he's still young, showed some juice last time, he could be a guy like Puka, where he was getting drafted on the Rams last year and round 18 or not at all, and people didn't see value in him. But when you're wide receiver 2 on an offense, you're going to see the field a lot, which means it does give you at least opportunities to shine, and that's all you need to outplay his ADP. So going back to yours, running back 3 is Dylan Sampson, but if we're thinking Judkins could be out for a bit of time, he won't be bad. Yeah, I don't think you can play in a regular redraft league Sampson regularly as much. So if it were me, I think you have a couple choices. One is, I don't know your team, the other teammates in your league the way you do, but I would love to have Jefferson on my team. But if you could combine like Jameson and Olave, or Jameson Downs or Olave Downs, I'd package them together, and then I would try and get another running back. And I think you could do that. And you'd still be just fine. You really love Judy, can easily outplay his ADP given his talent. Yeah, he can. He's got that kind of upside, and I think he's not, by natural, he's going to have to get a higher target share. He's definitely got the speed, to do some special thing. So, I'm a fan. And then I see I love Olave. Yeah, so here's what I'll say about Olave. So as an Ohio State fan, I've loved watching him play. I think the risk with him is his concussions, but if he stays healthy, he absolutely could crush his ADP. I mean, you got to remember, in the last couple of years, he was going in these drafts at like round 2, and now he's going in round 5. So I'm definitely a big fan. Dahad says, 12-team PPR dynasty. What should I do? Quarterback Murray, Bryce Young. Running back Cook, Chase Brown, Pollard, Aaron Jones, Dowdle, Najee. Wide receiver Nico, London, Evans, DJ Moore, Shakir. Tight end Andrews, Mason, Taylor. 1 second. Can play 3 wide receivers on a flex. Okay. Let me know, Tahad. Is it it says 12-team PPR Dynasty. Is it a super flex league or no? Just kind of curious. And then 1 second while we see what's coming around here in our draft, and then I'll get right back with you. All right. My man Sam's definitely going to be in this team to pair up with Cooper Kupp. But we're going to need a third quarterback because that's what I said I wanted to do. So we will do Cam Ward and Sam Darnold here at the turn. Stop at 3 quarterbacks: Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, Sam Darnold. We do have a mini stack, we'll call it, with Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. We would ideally get a wide receiver here to go with them, and then Cam Ward we'll need to stack. But we do have Sam Darnold stacked up with Cooper Kupp. So we'll see what comes out on the other side. We will still need 2 more running backs in this team. So we will probably be 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver to finish this team off. And then we'll get into our next, and actually we'll get into a Best Ball Mania after this, which is the much larger tournament. Okay, so it's not a super flex. So what do you looking to accomplish? Like I would say when you look at this from a dynasty standpoint, I think Murray, Bryce Young are 2 fine quarterbacks to have. I actually have Bryce Young on one of my teams. I think he's been undervalued, and I think he'll do better. Running back, I'd be a little. I don't love James Cook. I think he's fine, but I don't love him. Love Chase Brown. If I'm trying to look at how do I upgrade your team, I think you try and find another way to get a shot at another running back somehow. You've got, I think Najee was somebody I'd keep on my team for this year because he, even with his eye injury, I think he's going to have a good role in a run-first offense. You've got pass catchers. I don't know. You're not terrible at, Nico. I don't like Nico Collins, just personally. I think he's fine in Dynasty to have because of his age. A lot of people like him. I love London. I actually just traded Mike Evans off my team on one of my Dynasty leagues and went younger. I always try to upgrade my talent and then draft more behind there. So I will package, for example, might package Evans and I'm making this up, Nico Collins, right? And try to get a great running back from someone else. And then I'll do the reverse. I'll package up James Cook and let's say Aaron Jones or Tony Pollard, guys who I think are going on the downward slope, and try and get a better wide receiver, right? And you target those teams that don't have great players, and maybe even, see if Brock Bowers or somebody is available. Like I ended up with Brock Bowers on my Dynasty team doing it that way. Those are just some thoughts, but I'm not sure where your concerns are. Like, what are you most nervous about? I guess would be my question. DeAndre says 100% very high RPO offense with Kellen Moore. RPO easy targets for number. Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. And Chase Brown, Chris Olave is a guy that could be a high volume guy too. And he's very twitchy, can take one to the house. So where he's going in these drafts, and I don't know if you guys have done best ball drafts before, but where he's going here is a nice value and definitely worth the risk. About Chase Brown, I'm kind of worried about Taj Brooks. Bengals let go of Moss despite a nice season last year, which should signify they love Brooks and could implement him in third down. So here's what I'll say about the whole Zach Moss thing because I watched it closely. They didn't just cut him because they don't like him and they believe in him as much. I'm sorry, 1 second. I got to finish this real quick. Right. We need a running back here. Miles Sanders is fine. And then I'm going to grab Tyler Lockett to pair up with Cam Ward. And then our last pick will end up being a running back when we come back around. So I'll queue some of these guys up as options. But going back to what I was saying about Zach Moss. So Moss showed up out of shape really badly. And he had already come off, obviously, the broken neck in 3 places, etc. And then he comes in fat and out of shape. And so that was the real reason they cut him. He was out of shape. He was like winded on the sideline when he was just practicing. So it really came down to not only was he hurt, he didn't keep himself in good shape, and they felt that that they didn't need him. So I'm that's more the reason why they let him go than Brooks. But I think Brooks could have a role, but I'm not as worried about him, at least not this year. I think Chase Brown is just going to get loaded up unless he gets hurt. Thanks, bro. Just the age of Evans, but I took him in the 8th, couldn't pass him up. Might just go out and try and win this year. I don't know yet. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard. I like to balance my dynasty team so that I feel like I'm competitive every year, but at the same time, I don't go just full all in one year. But I also I don't want to sell the farm for 1 year, because then I'm going to hate my team for the next 4 years, right? And, trying to dump old players. And it's like, am I fun full rebuild? I don't know. It's one of those things where I kind of look at it. Where did you finish last year? If you were in the top 4 teams of a 12-man team last year, I push all in. If you're somewhere in the middle, you stay balanced, right? You try and upgrade your team, but you don't give up your draft picks. And then if you were in the bottom of the league, usually that's when I will hit the refresh button a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but a little bit of a refresh. But that's just kind of me. Evans. So my thing on Evans is going to be, I think that they are going to see volume continue to be reduced by him. He is getting older. He barely cracked 1,000 yards last year, and I realize he's still going to be number 1. I want to get him 1,000, but if Godwin's healthy, they have Ibuka. Otton is back. They have really great running back options. Baker had his best year ever. I love Baker, but we can't bank on him being that good every year just yet, in my opinion. So I just think that there's still an age cliff to be concerned about there. And in Dynasty, you don't want to wait until the over-the-hill player has a bad season and then try and trade him. You want to get max value with him while he's still a name. So that's why I chose this year to dump him. First year you've ever played Dynasty. That's awesome. I think you're going to love Dynasty. So I have teams in Dynasty. I do redraft leagues, and then I do best ball leagues. My favorite way to draft is best ball because you can draft hundreds of teams and you don't have to do any managing. But like with my buddies and friends, I love the redraft leagues and the Dynasty leagues. Kind of makes you feel like that manager. You can't just reset your team every year, which really makes you think differently. And I think each style of drafting can be very fun. DeAndre says Ibuka becoming overrated in drafts recently. Yeah, I don't like where he's going. Like, I like the player, but I think people are getting a little overzealous on him right now and where he's going. And we'll look in a second where he went in this draft. But with people that go around him, it's really hard for me to click him. And actually, I'll show you why. In my ranks, where I have him ranked, I often don't get him because my ranks, I have him lower than the ADP is. And that's why I'm not getting enough of him. I have to literally scroll down, so to speak, and actually grab him if I want him. All right, let's see here. I'm actually going to go Kendry Miller, I think. Yeah, I'm going to go Kendry Miller as our 5th and final person here. So recapping this team, we got Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, Sam Darnold quarterback, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, Miles Sanders, Kendry Miller at running back, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, Cedric Tillman, Tyler Lockett at wide receiver, tight end Trey McBride, and Jake Ferguson. So I feel good about this team. I wish I would have been able to stack Trevor Lawrence instead of Jake Ferguson. My preference would have been to have grabbed oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank here? I would have tried to grab Strange instead of Ferguson, and he went after us. I was hoping he would make it back, and I guess I could have reached on him a little bit, but that's probably my mistake if I made one here on this team. That probably would have been a better play, but that's all good. So what we'll do now is we'll roll into our next draft. We're going to get into a Best Ball Mania. For those of you, again, who may not be familiar with what we're doing, we're on Underdog Fantasy. These are all best ball drafts. And so with best ball, there's no time commitment during the regular season. You just draft your team and the best players play. And that's why I've been able to draft over 500 teams already, and we'll probably draft over 700 by the time the year begins. This tournament is called Best Ball Mania. This is the flagship tournament. It's $2 million to first place, $25 entry. You can draft up to 150 teams into this tournament. I've got 46 more shots at it, and I will be max drafting entries into this. $1 million a second, $500,000 to third, and so on. And so we're going to grab into one of these. If you're drafting with us live on here, we got 5 more spots in this room. If you want to join, click in now, and you might be able to jump in with us. And we'll see what position we get. By the way, what kind of running back do you think I can get with the pair of JMO and Downs? That's a good question. Let me see. Let me just look for one thing real quick. Oops. Let me just do one thing real quick. I've got a little cheat sheet here. Let's see. Sorry. Let's see. Downs. So I would say, see if I can find something that might make some sense. I mean, it kind of depends on your league mates and what you think you can get out of them, but you're really looking for, I mean, you got to find a guy who really values these people, who has weakness on their team, you know, and maybe even, you know, someone who's just begging for, you know, wide receivers that they're weak at. And if they see Jameson as a breakout candidate, which maybe he is, you know, I like him in that regard. You got to sell him high. And, you know, maybe you get a, if you're looking for dynasty, let me see. Are you dynasty or redraft? Let me see. Yeah, you were redraft. Yeah, I mean, you're just looking for redraft. So, I mean, maybe you get a mid-range veteran type guy, you know, that could do something for you, you know, because you want a starter, right? Like, some people want to have like this big built-out bench. I don't. I'd rather build up. I'd rather sell the farm in redraft and get absolute nuts top scoring players. And I'd rather be weak, for example, as my third wide receiver, you know, or my fifth flex or whatever it is, your third flex, and have absolute dominant players in the other spots, because there's going to be injuries and let you pick up waiver wire players that will be able to fill those last flex spots just fine. Shamrock, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you as always tonight. We're rocking another Best Ball Mania draft, which I actually need to change my banner real quick before this thing comes up to me, because we are now in Best Ball Mania. All right, we're at a really good spot. I love drafting from the 1-7 because a lot of stuff can drop to you here. And lately, Justin Jefferson's been falling to guys. I wish I would have had him here at the 1-7, but we do not. All right, so we'll go CMC. He's kind of the last one here. I don't hate him. I don't have a ton of him, but I think he's fine at 7. I was drafting teams in April and May, and CMC was going in the second round. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned about getting too much of him now, because there's going to be other people that have him in the second round. And in large field tournaments, you know, you want to have some uniqueness, and it kind of makes it hard to do that. Let's see. Neighbors, Collins, Puka, St. Brown, Thomas. All pretty standard, kind of a standard first-round draft. Let's see kind of what comes back our way. So as you go through this, you'll see, again, my ranks I've now included in here for you guys to see. that I've updated. And then ADP is the average draft position that 90% of the field is using to draft by. So this kind of gives me how I decide my advantages. If I'm not sure who I'm going to draft, I will let my ranks be the tiebreaker. And all my rankings are based on facts and data and my research. They're not just based on, oh, I like this guy or not because I thought he looked good in a uniform. So it's worked out well for me. I've been able to be very profitable doing this for the last 4 years here on Underdog and winning thousands of dollars every year. And I'd like to keep that going. Excuse me. All right. So A.J. Brown will be our choice here, and he'll be our first wide receiver off the board. And I'm pretty happy with the CMC A.J. Brown start. Thoughts on Downs. If Daniel Jones does start, he has like 8 yards average depth of target. Downs an immediate receiver, so that could really help him. Yeah, here's the thing with Downs. I like his profile of a receiver. I think he's the kind of guy that I like to draft, especially in particular in best ball. I don't like him in redraft leagues because in best ball, you know, you have 8 receivers, for example, and you have to start 3, could start 4 with a flex. So if he's my wide receiver 6, 7, whatever, I don't need him to play every week to get points. But when he does play well, he could break out and I can, you know, he's automatically in my lineup. In redraft leagues and dynasty leagues, you're putting him in your lineup every week. And the consistency for a guy like that is not there because he plays on the Colts. You know, whether he has Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones thrown to him, it's still a poor offense. And so I'd rather have a wide receiver or running backs from offenses that are more consistent and better teams, if that makes sense. In redraft leagues, I definitely do slightly favor the better offenses and the easier schedules than I do tougher schedules and crappier offenses, if that makes sense. So, and he might even be just the wide receiver 3 on a bad offense, and that's not a place you want to be. And you have to think this year they added Tyler Warren, the tight end, in the first round, and he looks awesome in preseason so far. So, you know, that's going to take some snaps there. And if they can't throw the ball accurately or they just stink, that's going to make it really hard to get enough value back for him. So I'm just not a big Downs guy, I guess, is kind of what I would say. Not trying to make you feel bad about having Downs by any means. All right, let's see what's coming back around to us here. So see what OnStar here does. Someone call OnStar. He needs some help. What is that? Sorry, like this little bug over here that I was trying to kill. All right. So even by my rank, the 2 quarterbacks are the highest rated players on the board. I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I will mix up Allen and Lamar. I am higher owned on Josh Allen. And over the last 6 years, no quarterback has been more consistent and had higher, his floor and his ceiling are just so high. And he's been extremely consistent. So Lamar's right there too, but you know, I still prefer Josh Allen. And Josh Allen has also stayed healthier over the years than Lamar has. But I do like both guys. Definitely the trade-off with what you could get compared to a Downs makes sense. Yeah. And again, you obviously want to feel good about what you're doing. You know, there are some trade calculators out there that you can use, just some free ones that'll kind of give you an idea if a trade is quote unquote fair. The problem with trade calculators is at this point, most people that you're playing with, if they're not complete fools, they're probably doing the same thing. They're just going to Google, typing in trade calculator and using the same one you are. So like they feel like if the calculator doesn't give them a good deal, then, you know, they're not going to, doesn't matter. Right. So you want to be smarter than the calculator in a way where, Downs and Olave for a running back, you know, it might say on the calculator is a one-sided trade for the other person, and you want it to say that way so they feel great. Meanwhile, you go after a guy that upgrades your full team. Well, they can't start both of them every week. So you're giving them extra receivers, but you're upgrading, a guaranteed starter, and maybe in a better offense. So you kind of have to think about it differently and use your league mates to your advantage. If you're playing with your friends, that is, you should be able to take total advantage of them if you really play your cards right. All right, so we're going to queue up our man George Kittle. I don't have a ton of him. You can see where my ranks are at. I actually kind of value differently players in this range than a lot of people do. All right, cool. So George Kittle has an ADP of 37. We're going to get him at 42. So that gives us a nice little value there. So we've got Josh Allen at a little bit of a slide, not much. And then CMC to A.J. Brown, kind of where they normally go. And we'll take some George Kittle, a little bit of ADP slide to start this. When we do start this way, where we have kind of an elite tight end, elite quarterback build, we're going to need to go a little bit wide receiver heavy over the next few rounds, because the drop off of wide receiver talent in these best ball leagues are insane. You have to really pay attention. And because you have to start 3 wide receivers in best ball and 4 if you use the flex, and you only need to start 2 running backs, it's more important to really make sure you don't lose out on the wide receivers too early on. So we'll see kind of what comes back around to us on the board. One other thing that I always look at with my teams is the Week 17 and the fantasy football playoffs and who they play, because we're trying to push for upside. So you'll see here, this is just a quick look at, this is what I'm looking at from a playoff standpoint. Weeks 15, 16, 17 are the best ball fantasy football playoff weeks. And I look and see who's playing who week 17. And I try and make sure if I have Josh Allen, ideally I have an Eagles player with me, which we do here in A.J. Brown. So if Buffalo and Philadelphia in week 17 is the best, the highest scoring game that week, and it goes nuclear, and I have players from both teams that go off, I am more likely to win a whole lot of money by doing that than those teams that don't. And when we're trying to win $2 million, we have to reach for the ceiling. And there's only a few different ways that we really can do that. All right, so we're definitely going to look at the wide receivers here. I'm just going to queue up some guys that I like. I don't like Sutton, so I'm glad he's gone. We could double up on Philly, even though we don't have the quarterback, but I'm not. I have DK Metcalf ranked higher, so I'm going to continue to go with that. I think he's going to get loaded with targets. I think he's an athletic freak. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball to him just like Devontae Adams. And I think they're going to load him up with targets this year. And I think this is going to be the year DK Metcalf breaks out. That's my prediction. And by breakout, he doesn't even have to break out he doesn't have to go to the house like Tyreek Hill does. He's going to do it by volume alone, because they're going to have to throw to him because the talent pool below him is so poor. I shouldn't say it's not that poor, but I don't think that there's a lot of talent there. They're going to have to rely on him, and I think he wants that. I forgot to mention I do have Addison on the bench. Okay, that's even better, because I love Addison. Even though he's going to be suspended 3 games, I think he's extremely talented wide receiver. And an offense that's pretty good. They play in a dome, so they're more likely to air it out. I think he's a great player to have. So when you have all those wide receivers, you definitely need to package a couple together and try and get, an upgrade in the running back room. And then I think you were the one that was off Jefferson for McCaffrey. I mean, the other way you could do it, if you really like McCaffrey, is instead of Justin Jefferson for McCaffrey, you could package up a bunch of wide receivers and try and upgrade your wide receivers that way. You don't have to take that, right? Maybe I could package Addison to a better running back with a JMO. Yeah, I mean, you could. All of that could definitely work. I think you got to figure out what do people like, but you have options, my friend. You have a lot of options with those wide receivers, where you're going to find people that really value someone, whether they like them because it's their favorite college or they just like that player or whatever. Yeah, you definitely have options, which is a good place to be. All right, so speaking of which, my ranks in ADP have Olave at the top. We're going to go ahead and grab Chris Olave here as our third wide receiver. We're 11 picks away. Here's Ibuka, by the way. If you notice, my rank, I have him at 75. He just went at 68. So that was an example of that's why I don't get him, because he's getting pulled up so early because the hype is so strong. And I think he is really talented, and he could absolutely crush, but I just think he's going a little earlier than I prefer. So now what we're going to do here is we're hoping, and we should have no problem when we come back up in 9 picks, getting Shakir as our fourth wide receiver, and he'll pair up with Josh Allen. And then we're really building up our Week 17 bring back with Buffalo and Philly when we add Shakir to the mix. And we feel like we're off to a really good start. The other thing we could do is, we've got a couple of San Francisco players. We could end up, getting some Chicago in there to do that bring back for Week 17, because Chicago plays the 49ers in Week 17. And here's just another quick reminder on what that looks like. So you'll see Chicago at San Francisco in Week 17. And that could be a really high-scoring game as well. All right. Draft board coming around. It's looking pretty good to get him. Now, we'd be reaching just a hair with how I've got him ranked, but that's okay because that stack with the quarterback is more important than, a 3 or 4 person reach. The only thing we could do is we could push him and see if he comes all the way back down the other way. But somehow I don't see that happening. But the question is, do we want to do that? Because I really like Jordan Addison. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to grab Addison. And then I'm going to see if Shakir comes all the way back around. Sometimes in these things, you're trying to win $2 million. You've got to take a chance. You got to take a risk. So we're going to see if we can push Shakir all the way around to the other side. 9 more picks. And we're going to hope that it works out in our favor. If not, we still have other ways to stack Josh Allen. And we got a little bit of ADP benefit here on Jordan Addison by about 5 picks. So we'll take advantage of that. So far we started Josh Allen, CMC at running back, wide receiver A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, and tight end George Kittle. Love the start. This is a really nice team being built so far. And Shakir did go. So it didn't work out, but we have to just pivot and roll with the punches. And we'll see what comes back around to us. Plenty of other ways to play it. Brock Purdy is second quarterback. Yeah, I'm definitely eyeing that up. Not going to get him here because with quarterbacks, I do not reach on quarterbacks because there's so many ways to play quarterback and there's ways to backstack guys that I just don't want to reach on my quarterback. The only time I reach is if I get to the end and I've been sniped so bad that I am at the very end of quarterback city, and then I'll reach on it, maybe 1 or 2 at the very end when it's less likely to matter. So my ranks are pretty equal to what's on the board right now. So I'm going to go ahead and grab Brian Robinson. He's my highest ranked guy. I have a ton of Jaylen Warren, and I probably have too much of Jaylen Warren. I think he's my most drafted running back because of where he goes on a run-first team, and I think he's got juice. You saw Chase Brown break out last year, and now he's going in like the 2nd round now. I think he's the same type of player, and I want to be on that player before he breaks out, right? Because that's how you win. That's how you win money in these things. You got to kind of be thinking ahead. What kind of profile player do you have? What kind of talent are they? And catch them on the up, right? Too many times people are trying to get guys on the up. Well, they're at the end of their career. You're grabbing them at their ceiling, and instead of trying to grab them where they could outpace their ADP. Would appreciate if anybody has joined. If you would mind, throw a like, subscribe on the channel. It really does help go a long way. I do this whether I'm streaming it or not. I do this because I love it. And your support means a lot as we're trying to grow the channel. And, if I can help somebody else and we can help grow Underdog, we can help grow best ball, we can help grow fantasy football, then it's a win-win. And I feel like I'm giving back and doing my part. So it's been good to me. I profited well off of this, and if I can help others do the same, then hey, we're all winning together. Shamrock says, do you think Cooper Kupp's injuries were in some way a business decision to get out of LA so he can play healthy in Seattle? That's some like galaxy brain stuff right there. Anything's possible. I'll never say nothing, nothing's possible, but I feel like it's unlikely, right? But you just don't know. It's not what I'm thinking, but hey, listen, it could be, right? Hey, Brock Purdy has come back to us, so that falls in our lap nicely. So we're going to pick him up there. And he stacks with CMC and George Kittle. And when we get Josh Allen, an elite quarterback, we definitely stop at 2 quarterbacks. So this will be our 2 quarterbacks for this team, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy. Really like how this team's coming together. This is the type of team that can win us a lot of money. Now we need to see what's going to come back around. I have to consider Ayuk here. We do have some other things I could consider here. I kind of need to look at potentially some Chicago guys for the bring back. I don't need them, but just something I need to consider if it comes my way. Especially if Ayuk's not on the board, I think I'll probably pivot to the Chicago guys here. And by the way, Shamrock, on Cooper Kupp, I like him. I still think he's a capable player and an offense that could be pretty effective. And where he's going in these drafts, I think he's a fine value. I don't think I'd be getting guys like Cooper Kupp in redraft leagues unless they really fell. Because I think you have in your regular redraft leagues, your home leagues, I like to prioritize the elite quarterbacks and elite running backs because there's plenty of options and players that can play at wide receiver. There are fewer over-talented, players in those other positions. All right. Do we go Ayuk or I don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm going to go ahead and grab Luther Burden instead and start to build the San Francisco Chicago bring back. The news on him yesterday was that he could be ready by week 6 is what they're estimating now for him. I still like getting him, but I like to get him when he's like my 6th or 7th wide receiver, not my 5th. So I don't feel as good about that. So I'll pass on him here. I do think his ADP is going to continue to fall. We got him, I think, in the last draft, and he was like wide receiver 7 for us. And that's when I like taking the chance because I'm not counting on him much. He can sit out for 6 weeks, come back and absolutely kill it and be the guy you need to win a lot of money. So I'm okay with passing on him. All right. And while we're looking at this, let me pull up. You mentioned Cooper Kupp. Let me take a look at a couple things with Cooper Kupp. So Kupp last year, he's still got enough juice, so to speak, because, he had he had 3 top 10 wide receiver finishes. He also had another number 12 and number 13 finish. So he's still got that going for him. He had an 86% snap share, even with only playing 12 games. He had in 12 games, he had 100 targets. The issue with Cooper Kupp is, in the last 3 years, he hasn't been healthy. He played 9 games, 12 games, 12 games. He has not been healthy since that absolute crushing 439 point season in 2021. But even when he's not healthy, he had 6 touchdowns, 100 targets, and 67 receptions. If for some reason he is healthy in Seattle, they're going to need him. And he's clearly capable of putting up some numbers still. So I think he's a great pick where he's going in best ball drafts, more so than in redraft. All right, we're about to be on the board, and wouldn't you know it, he's still here. I'm going to grab Dalton Kincaid to stack him with Josh Allen here. So we've got that stack. Dalton Kincaid is my most stacked player with Josh Allen. I do get Shakir. I do get Keon Coleman. These guys a decent amount, but he is not. I find Kincaid to be my most drafted player, and a lot of times he's being drafted as one of my first tight ends, and I love where he's going in drafts. He could absolutely crush this year. When we have George Kittle and Kincaid, we will also stop at tight end. So we know we're done at quarterback. We're most likely done at tight end, unless something crazy happens, which means we're going to have a 2-6-8-2 build. So we'll have 4 more running backs and 3 more wide receivers on this team will be the plan. And we'll just kind of see how that comes back to us here. Ayuk finally went at 129. I think that's pretty good value on him where he's going. So we definitely have guys that look like good options here. The question is, do I need – well, I was going to go Trey Benson first, but I think now when all these wide receivers are available, they've kind of did a little bit of a run on running backs. There's plenty of other ones I like. I'm going to take Josh Palmer for the double stack with Buffalo. Makes the most sense for me. Palmer looked good in preseason so far. Seems to have a role in this offense. That's going to be pretty substantial. So, yeah, I really, really like how this team's being built out. This is how you build a team that can win you some money. Absolutely. Feels good. Kincaid is prime for breakouts. And, yeah, I think so, too. He's still young enough and can show out. When I looked at Kincaid for last year, let's just take a quick look at some of his numbers and then talk about where he's going. He's going as a tight end 14 in terms of overall rankings for, PPR. He only had 1 top 5 finish last year. He had 2 more top 10 finishes and then 3 top, he was ranked 14. He showed out. He only played 13 games. And his snap share was only 58%. And he only had 75 targets and 2 touchdowns. Even if he only does the same thing as he did last year, he's going to pay off for his value where he's being drafted for the most part. So all you need to do is if he's on the field just a little bit more, like for example, his rookie year, he played in 16 games. He was the 11th tight end. He had 66% snap share, and he still only had 2 touchdowns the whole year. They're going to find ways to get him the ball more in the red zone, I'm sure. Oh, hold on. We're on the clock. I guess I need to pay attention real quick. We'll grab Rashad White as our 3rd running back. Almost got autoed right there. That would have been all bad news. So when we get further down in these drafts, I start to ignore ADP because the further you go, it's less likely you need to worry about it. I only look at it from a perspective of will the player come back to me, because most players are looking at ADP. But I start to filter more into my ranks at this point to prioritize guys that I think are just better options at their positions. So we'll see what comes back to us here. What's with the drop-off? Amari Cooper. He came over from Cleveland as the wide receiver 1. Yeah, I don't know that I fully understand what happened with him, other than I think he's definitely was a route technician, great hands kind of guy, great, just a great player in Dallas, came over to the Browns, had really great years. And then we dumped him when we knew we weren't going to be going to the playoffs, and Buffalo picked him up, and he just never really caught on. And I don't know if he's just getting older, or maybe he really doesn't have it anymore. I don't really know what the actual answer is, but it doesn't look good, and he still hasn't signed with the team. And the longer they go in the preseason and not signing with the team, the less likely they're going to be an impact player and even signed at all. So it could be possible that he's just done. I do think he's going to find a team, but you don't know what that's going to look like, when they're going to be on a team, and if they're going to be any good. I don't know. And I do have some Amari Cooper on some teams of mine. So, all right. What are we doing here? I'm going to get my man Nick Chubb as our fourth running back. I kind of want to build out the running backs first here because there is a little bit of a drop-off of guys that I like at running back at the end, but there's plenty of receivers I don't mind taking shots on. Jack Skits, welcome, my friend. You have the 9th pick in your league, and I'm leaning Nico Collins. Any advice? So I love when people ask me about Nico Collins because I'm actually in the minority on my opinion on him. I think he is a round 2 pick, not a round 1 pick. I would rather have, so if you look at the board here, how it went Neighbors, Collins, Puka, St. Brown, Brian Thomas. I would rather have Neighbors over all of them. He would definitely be my preference. So if Neighbors is available, I would advise you to go with him. My rationale on Neighbors is that he is a ascending player who is a ball dominant, ball requesting guy in an offense where they upgraded quarterback. I think they're going to throw a lot. That's what the organization wants to do. Clearly, they don't prioritize running game. Otherwise, they would have kept Saquon Barkley on the team. And they don't have much of a running game anyway. So they're going to throw. They're going to play from behind. And he's a ball hog, right? Whereas Houston, I think that Nico Collins and Houston have a lot of options. I do think they will also prioritize passing, but I'm going to show you some stats on why I don't like Nico in just a second, as soon as we make our pick. And I think when I kind of explain it to you the way I look at it from a data perspective, you're going to go, well, that kind of makes some sense. And you'll understand why I rate him, where I rank him the way I do. It'll make a little bit more sense. But let me grab some people first. All right, I'm going to grab another share of Michael Wilson. I get a lot of Michael Wilson here. He's the number 2 wide receiver in an offense that's ascending, and you can get him late. And so he's a great pick in these late drafts. When you get later in drafts, you want guys higher in the depth chart on good offenses. That's what you should prioritize because you're just taking shots on guys who might actually be on the field and not taking a complete zero, right? That's kind of what I look for in these. Let me flip this back around for you real quick. And so let's go and talk about Nico. So let me pull him up, and I'm going to read you some numbers, some actual data and facts on him. So in his career, he's played 4 years. He has never played a full set of 17 games. He played 14, 10, 15, and 12. So obviously health is a concern. That's number 1. His best finish was in 2023. He was the wide receiver 12 in PPR scoring. Last year, he was wide receiver 23. His first 2 years in the league, he was wide receiver 75. Not even worth drafting at that point. His snap share averages under 70%. He's only had 100 targets. The year he had 15 games played, which was 2 years ago, 109 targets, 1,200, almost 1,300 yards. The only thing I like about him is his yards per route run, meaning to say when he gets the ball, he, generally speaking, has the ability to do something with it. But I think the risk is too great to take him number 1 overall when he's never performed as a top 10 wide receiver even in 4 years that he's been in the league. Sorry, 1 second. Let me make this pick here. I'm going to grab Will Shipley, keep the Buffalo Philly stack alive, or the Week 17 bring back alive. Sorry. I really like this team that we're building here, guys. I really think this could be a winner. And then, so, we got health. He's not even on the field that much, as much as you'd think. He's not finishing as the top 10 receiver ever. I'd rather, if you're going to draft in the first round and you need a guy in the first round that's going to be that guy, right? I'd rather take a guy like Neighbors, who we don't even know if he's at his ceiling yet. Puka Nakua, who's still ascending, which I still like Neighbors better. St. Brown, same thing, has proven that he can stay healthy for the most part, been on the field, has been a top 10 receiver. Brian Thomas, year 2, showed flashes. Like, these guys I'd rather have. Truthfully, I'd rather have Drake London, A.J. Brown. So if you're starting, in the back of the first round, how I would start in a redraft league is I would grab 1 wide receiver, 1 running back, or 2 running backs. I'd love to start Malik Neighbors and Devon Achane. That's what I would do. That would be my perfect start in the back of drafts. Neighbors, Achane. Hopefully that helps you think about him just a little bit differently. Shamrock says, you don't think Woody Marks gets more touches than Chubb? I don't know. For the year, I'm going to say no. Do I think he could get some more at the end of the year, especially with receiving work? Yes. But right now, he's technically the fourth running back in the depth chart, believe it or not. So I feel like he could get there and then maybe a better value next year. I just don't think he's got enough juice and enough profile to be like the league winner that you need. I just don't see it. I don't see his talent level, and that's just me. I mean, I could totally be wrong on him, and I'm okay being wrong on a guy, I'll take a piece of Taj Brooks here, and we'll be done at running back, and then we'll grab 1 more wide receiver, and then this team will be done. We'll recap it, and then we will get into 1 more draft tonight, because I got on early enough where I can kind of keep this train rolling. But I really, really like this team. Really like this team. Let's see which one of these guys is going to fit best, or who do we want to just toss in here? What do you guys think? You can see on my screen 7 picks away. If there's any of these guys you see here, I kind of put them in order automatically. That's where my rankings are. But who do you like best out of these? These players. Who would you pick for your team as your final pick? Throw your thoughts in the chat. Let me know what you think. Who would you complete this team with? I like taking darts on certain guys, and all these guys have value depending on how your team's being built. Shamrock says Naylor. I do like Naylor. Or Ray. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and go with your first instinct. I'm going to grab, oh, you know what, though? I've already got Addison on the team, so we'll do Ray. We'll do Ray McLeod. So clear this out. Let's recap the team, and then we'll get into 1 more. So at quarterback, we got Josh Allen, Brock Purdy. Running back, we have CMC, Brian Robinson, Rashad White, Nick Chubb, Will Shipley, Taj Brooks. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Luther Burden, Joshua Palmer, Michael Wilson, Ray McLeod. Tight end, George Kittle, Dalton Kincaid. We did a double stack with Buffalo with Palmer and Kincaid. We have a double stack of sorts with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, stacked with Brock Purdy. San Francisco plays in Week 17, Chicago, and we do have Luther Burden there for the bring back on that game. And then Buffalo plays Philly, and we have Will Shipley and A.J. Brown for that game. So we really did put this together pretty nicely. And just kind of as a reminder, we're kind of looking off of this for that Week 17 just to make sure we want to heighten our ceilings and heighten our chances of winning. And so when we're going against 672,000 other teams, we have to give ourselves as much mathematical advantage and probability advantage as we can, which is why we kind of take a look at week 17. All right. So if you're wanting to draft with us, we are going to head and get into another Best Ball Mania. I will give y'all a few seconds here, and then I'll give you a countdown. All right. We're going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're in. 10 spots available in this one. So plenty of time to jump in if you are interested in joining this draft with me. I was going over before you guys jumped on, I was kind of looking at some of the learnings and the data that I kind of compiled and looked at from the preseason week 1, and just kind of talking about some of those things. And there's definitely some things that stand out, some things that people should take note of, such as like the Jacksonville backfield that everybody's been concerned about. Travis Etienne definitely played 100% of the snaps when Lawrence was on the field, had 67% of the attempts, and had a 14% target share and 88% route participation. That tells me, like, that's just a brief indication, but that is a signal that he is absolutely the pure number one in that offense, and that includes pass catching. So Bigsby, fine to grab, Tootin, fine to grab, but the problem is that they all go in the same place. So unless they drop later, Etienne's the guy you want, in my opinion, in that backfield. And, you know, we'll see what the rest of the preseason looks like, but I totally think that he's the guy you want to have there. Jaylen Warren, he rested. It's a good sign because it's probably going to be a little bit committee, but when he's resting with the starters, it's very clear in the pecking order that they're not questioning him as being the number one, right? Which is exactly how I'm playing him. And Caleb Johnson was actually the third person in the game at running back. In the thing, Kenneth Gainwell started at running back before Caleb Johnson did. Now, that could just be for show, but that goes back to my point is you have to draft Caleb Johnson 5 or 6 rounds earlier than Jaylen Warren, who is the clear-cut number one running back who has upside in that offense that's going to be a run-first offense. It just doesn't make sense to me to, not take more of him. So he is going to be one of my most drafted players, and those are great signs as reasons why. Blake Corum looked good, by the way. Got a couple of touchdowns on the goal line. Definitely got goal line usage. He seems like he's got the edge over Jarquez Hunter. So from the Rams standpoint, if whenever I get a Rams running back late in drafts, I'm going to throw some shots at Blake Corum, not Hunter. What else can I share? Naylor looked good. Ty Felton entered the game with the backups, but he seems like he's, they want to have a role for him at some point, especially if, Addison misses time or Jefferson gets hurt. I think that Ty Felton is a guy that people can take a stab at in Minnesota. Jalen Noel looked really good in he had 40% route participation and 20% target share. He's clearly ahead of John Mechie and Justin Watson in the pecking order. And so I thought that was a good sign for him and for where people are drafting him, where he's going. I think he's a nice pickup and could be a really nice value. So I like Jalen Noel or Noel. I don't know how you say it. Oh, and by the way, Woody Marks, here's another interesting one. Dare Ogunbowale, I don't even know how to say his name anymore. He actually played ahead of Woody Marks. So that goes back to my point of he's technically behind him in the pecking order from a running back standpoint. So, all right, we're at the 1-9. And my man Malik Neighbors is available at the 1-9. We are definitely going to scoop him up. In a perfect world, I would love for Achane to come back and we can do exactly what I just told that other friend to do. And we'll see if that works out. A couple other things that were, I think, of note is, let's see here. So Ray Davis looked good. He got 60% of the snaps, 57% of the attempts. He was actually pretty active in the passing game. 62% route participation, 15% target share. Had all of the 2-minute offense. Obviously, James Cook didn't play, but I think that's a fantastic sign that Ray Davis is another great handcuff. I think he's one of the best handcuff options that are available in drafts right now. All right, so we are going to get Ashton Genty and Malik Neighbors. I'm okay with this. They do play each other in week 17, so there's a little bit of correlation there. We get Genty, who at pick 16, who normally goes around pick 13 or 14. So a little bit of value there. So that's a pretty nice little start to our draft. Would have been kind of fun if Puka would have fell back to us. But ideally, Achane, Genty, those would have been, my ideal pick. So kind of falls right. Fantasy Dog, what's going on, my friend? How are you? Thanks for joining us tonight. We're already in draft 3. I got on early today, my friend. We're in draft 3 already. We are just vibing over here. This is the kind of start I like. We'll kind of talk about what this team kind of develops into based on what falls to us. I don't force my drafts to start a certain way, but one thing I'll just show real quick that I talked about in the last video was I kind of did this comparison versus the type of draft strategy that you can have in these best ball leagues, what's been effective in the last 2 years, and kind of what those trends have told us. And so my preferred strategy this year, if it falls my way, is to do that hero RB or anchor RB strategy with a wide receiver avalanche and toss an elite toss an elite quarterback when I can, and then continue that avalanche. So that's kind of my combined way to want to play it. So I just kind of wanted to bring this out for you and kind of showcase that for a brief second. Yeah, you got 2 CMC Genty since last night. Couldn't pass them up. Yeah, I know. CMC Genty is, it's not super common, but not super uncommon. But I get it. Depending on where guys fall, you kind of just want to take the values, right? Now, I was talking about the preseason winners and losers and things to note. I think there's people that are freaking out over Genty because he ran the ball like twice and they said he didn't look good, and everybody has a heart attack that he's going to be a complete bust. And maybe he will be, but that's absolutely the worst evaluation of a player I've ever seen, when people just go, oh, he had 2 drafts, he looks so bad, or two handoffs, he looked terrible. And people are freaking out. Not smart at all. All right. Speaking of drafts, let's see what's coming around. We're at pick 33. We've got Harrison coming around, Josh Allen coming around. Definitely some guys that I really like here. Adams goes. Kittle went way early. We're just going to say thank you, and we're going to grab some values here. That's for sure. Because these guys don't normally make it, especially Harrison on this side of the board. ADP at 28, we're going to get him at 33. We're just going to say thank you for giving us a very unique pairing. You do not see Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors on the same team very often. So this will automatically make us a very unique team by having these 3 together. So I'm very excited about how this team is starting. Let's see how it kind of continues to play out. But this is fun. Very fun. So I like Kyron as a pretty good option here. We could even go Jalen Hurts, but I don't know that I want to do that. It would kind of go with my strategy, though, right? I'm going to go ahead and take Jalen Hurts. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with the elite quarterback. It's not that much of a reach, and who knows? Crazier things have happened with these drafts. Maybe somehow magically Devonta Smith makes it 15 picks back to us. Spoiler alert, won't happen. but it'd be fun if it did. That would make this team absolutely crazy. Hey, I appreciate you, my man. Got to have a little humor in your life, right? So this, going back to the draft strategy thing that I just showed, this team here, you're doing CMC, Chase Brown, Kittle, who got pulled up early. And I mean, this guy's just pulling guys early, going to get his guys. He's just lighting $25 on fire. Don't like it. Don't agree with it. And if he wins, great. Good for him. The chances of him winning are extremely slim with this type of a build. Because he'd have to get super lucky with wide receivers later on. If you are just joining, please like, subscribe. If you happen to stumble in here, maybe you don't like what I'm saying. Maybe you do. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you're entertained for 5 minutes. I'm happy to do any of those things. Maybe you thought this was absolutely a waste of your time. Press like anyway. It's fun. Make somebody's day. Never hurts. If you don't know what we're doing, just a quick reminder, this is Underdog Fantasy. These are best ball drafts, which means there's no time commitment during the regular season. You draft your team and the best players play, and that's how I've been able to draft almost 500 teams already this year. And we'll continue to draft all the way up to league start. If you look on the screen, this is the map. Anywhere in these states with a yellow indicator, you can draft on Underdog Fantasy on these states if you meet the age requirements. And is my favorite place to draft. They have some of the best tournaments. They have the world's largest best ball tournament and fantasy football tournament on the planet, which is Best Ball Mania, which is what we're doing right now. And I would highly encourage you guys, if you have not tried this, in the link below in the description, I do have a link to Underdog Fantasy. Give me 1 second here. Sorry. I'm going to take Kamara as my wide receiver too. My running back too. I have a link in the description. And with that link, you can sign up for Underdog Fantasy. And when you do, use my promo code PERFECT216 and you'll get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. So take advantage of that free extra money that Underdog is giving you for joining up. And you can jump in and join live with us anytime you want. And we can talk shop, talk teams, talk best ball, talk fantasy football. We can talk about whatever you want. We're just here. May not be here for a long time, but we sure are here for a good time. So I don't know. Shamrock says, thoughts on Travis Hunter? So I love a rookie, especially with a early draft capital guy on an ascending offense who has a really great, strong profile. Travis Hunter has all of that. The only hesitation I have on Travis Hunter is that I think he will be limited in his snap count because he's going to play a little on defense. So I think that could limit him. Sorry, 1 second. All right, we're going to get my man Rome as our third wide receiver. I like Rome Odunze here. With Rome Odunze, he is a year 2 player, also had high draft capital, first-round pick last year on an ascending offense where I think they want to continue to feature him. And he did really well last year, showed great signs, and I think he will have a potential. I want guys who in the 6th round have not reached their ceiling yet because we don't know what it is. So I want more guys like that on my team. But going back to Travis Hunter for a second, the one thing that I found really interesting is when they released their official depth chart, they have Travis Hunter listed as the wide receiver 1 over Brian Thomas. So even though his snap share is probably not going to be the same as Brian Thomas, I think it'll be a little lower. I think that's a good sign to want to take him. It's throwing me off because he is kind of a unicorn, right? And no one's ever had somebody drafted this high playing 2 positions, trying to figure out snap shares, etc. Like, I don't want to be too overweight on him, but I definitely want to have enough of him. So if he is the GOAT and maybe he's the, Shohei Ohtani of football, I want to be in on that guy. But truthfully, I think that even if he's not look at Rome, he had a solid year last year, but he wasn't a first, second, or third round pick worthy of performance. I'd rather grab Hunter. I like where he's getting drafted now, but I bet you next year, once we have a little bit more information how they're going to use him and how well he'll correlate to the NFL, I think I'll probably want to be more aggressive with him next year. But I definitely want to have some of him, if that makes sense. I'm not avoiding him at all. And I think where he goes in drafts in the 5th round is perfect. It's a great spot. Fantasy says, I feel pretty lucky having your knowledge on tap. We got to get you going big time. You are way too good at this. Man, you are too nice. That's what I think. I appreciate the fact that you're here, because you could be anywhere. There's plenty of other things you could be doing, but you're spending your time with me, and it does mean a lot, and I am very grateful for it. All right, let's see what's going around to us here. We could kind of go any way here. Technically, Sam Laporta is my highest ranked player. And if you haven't been on any of my streams in the last couple of days, I did finally add my ranks in here, and I have updated them. So I'm going to try and update them weekly. And you'll be able to kind of get an idea at ADP. I'll still sort primarily by ADP, but if I'm in a tiebreaker or if I'm trying to make a tough decision, I will usually use my ranks as the tiebreaker, just because it'll at least kind of give me an idea of where I want to prioritize. I got to be honest, I really like David Montgomery of ADP 73 falling to me at 81. I think that would be an absolutely disgusting pick here if it falls that way. I think it would be great. That didn't happen. This happens to me a lot. I feel like I spoke that into existence. We'll go ahead and grab Jaden Reed here. They're saying he's not certain to be ready for week 1. I don't get scared of that. I get scared when guys are going to be out 8 weeks or 6 weeks, or are they going to play this year? That makes me a little more nervous. I'll still take shots at guys like Jaden Reed. All right. So, like Aaron Jones, I was just talking about him earlier. Josh Downs, not a huge fan, but we do need wide receiver help on this team, I think, a little bit. I think we probably need the wide receiver more than we need the running back. So if Downs is there, I'm probably going to go that route. Let's see what Boosted wants to do. He goes Kelsey. So, yeah, I'm just going to prioritize the wide receiver here in Josh Downs. And we'll see what comes back to us, the other way around. We push that around here. Shamrock says, yeah, you're very knowledgeable regarding strategy, player strength, weaknesses, ADP value. Pretty awesome. Yeah, I try and just, do the best I can with what I got. I listen to other people. I do look at other things like newsletters, articles, other, whether it's podcasts when I'm driving, or I'll use data. I have, many places that I'll pull actual facts and data from. And I primarily made my rankings strictly through data and tried to take my opinion out of it for the most part, until once I put them together, then I would challenge myself and say, okay, why this guy over this guy? And then go back to the data and say, okay, like when I was going through that Nico Collins conversation, I had him after, I had him in the back of the first round, but I dropped him even more, because when I looked back at overall, I just, there's too many things there for me, to want to take other guys over him. I'd rather take a Drake London, just for example, who finished last year. He's been healthy 3 years in a row. He has a 91% snap share last year, 158 targets, 5th ranked wide receiver in PPR. He also has a strong yards per route run, but he had a higher target share, 29% over 24% for Nico. Like, why wouldn't I take the guy like Drake London, who's already had a top 5 finish with a 20% higher snap percentage and a higher target share in his team, and he clearly is an end zone preference because he had 9 touchdowns. There's reasons like that where people love Nico and all that, and it's fine. I'm not saying he's a bad choice. I'm just saying I don't think that the data would tell you that he's the right choice, and that's just how I'm looking at it. And there's plenty of ways you could probably dig deep enough, find other data that says this is why he's better, and that's fine. People can do that. I choose to look at certain things, and that's why I, do what I do. Fantasy Dog says, I was out in the kitchen listening, going back. You like Shador, right? Monty's role might not change at all. Shador. So I liked what he did in the first week of the preseason, which gets me excited as a Cleveland Browns fan. I'm not drafting him. I think I have him on one team just to say I clicked him. But I do like him initially, but I mean, there's a lot still to figure out with him, right? Like, we don't even know exactly what he's gonna, what is he really bringing to the table? What is the news on Mooney? He's still week to week. And I like Mooney, but ADP 95, I think I can push him back around again. So we're going to go ahead and take ETN here. I just got done talking about ETN as well. I'm just going ahead and grab him as our third running back here. I do think ETN is going to be featured. There's so many reasons why I believe that. And, if I'm right, then, the chances of him being, if he is a featured back and gets a higher workload than people are projecting and does kind of quote unquote break out, he can easily overshoot his ADP. And if he only is part of a timeshare, he still has a chance to be valuable. So I like him either way. All right. So I was kind of debating between grabbing Caleb Williams or Rashid Shaheed, but I just feel like I might need some extra juice in the wide receiver room. And I like Shaheed, second New Orleans player on our team, but I like it so far. So far we've got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Ashton Genty, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne at running back, wide receiver Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, and Rashid Shaheed at wide receiver, and no tight end. But I have a feeling that we will find a magical first tight end in round 11 if all plays the way I'm thinking it's going to play. Yes, I've done pretty well, man. I appreciate you. The Browns could have had Hunter and Shedeur. Yeah, that would have been fun. If Hunter and Shedeur were on the same team, I think it would have been fun. I'm not upset with what the Browns did on the trade, and I'm not upset that they didn't draft Shedeur in the first round. I'm not upset about any of that. I actually wanted the Browns to take Jackson Dart in the first round. I still think he's going to be the best quarterback that is in this draft. He's who I wanted. We didn't get him. We had a chance. We didn't do that. But that's okay. We're the Browns, and we screw stuff up all the time. So we just ride with it, and we support our team no matter what. We just go ahead and feels like we always draft the wrong guy at the wrong time. And we suffer through it, and, we're loyal people here, are these Cleveland Brown fans. If nothing about us is true, is we are loyal, we are blue collar, and we love our football teams. Shamrock said, if there's one quarterback enter into the elite category this year, who do you think it would be? Great question. Let's, so I don't love where a lot of these quarterbacks are going in the middle of drafts in general this year, where in years past, I feel like there's guys that have had great value. I don't think Bo Nix is good enough to get up to elite this year, although I think he should be drafted another round or two later, like Drake May is. I think Lawrence could really take a leap forward this year. He's got legs, he's got juice, and he's expanded now his weapons in the offensive game. Better line. I guess then, I mean, I like Kyler Murray where he goes. I guess if anyone's going to really go elite that has never really done that, I guess Caleb Williams probably has the chance to break out the most. I would say Caleb Williams because he's year 2, highly drafted guy. You expect a lot from him. And sorry, one second. My man Jordan Love should be available here, and we'll get him as our second quarterback to pair up with Jaden Reed. It's going to be our plan here. And then when it comes back around to us in 6 picks, we will reach a little bit to grab Dallas Goedert as our first tight end and stack him up with Jalen Hurts because we like stacking quarterbacks and we're running out of stacking partners that make sense in Philly. So why not grab him here? Makes sense to me. So yeah, I think Caleb could be a good option. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's a complete flop. You know, he didn't look great. Some people are reporting that in practices and training camp, he didn't look great either. But I think the upside, you know, I guess is probably there. May, well, you got me thinking. Yeah, so Drake May, I feel like he's somebody that the whole fantasy football world wants to win. They want him to be great. They want him to be the guy. And I don't know that I understand it fully yet. I don't know what the love is on him. I mean, obviously he's a big guy. Did show legs. I think he's going to have rushing upside clearly in his portfolio. And I like Drake May. I like Drake May more than I like Bo Nix. I don't know if I can call him a breakout, though. I mean, I guess he could. I'm more concerned with Drake May, not because of Drake May. I'm more concerned because I don't know what he's doing with wide receivers. They got to figure out who's actually wants to show up and play on that team and actually, you know, be able to put an offense together. They now have, you know, they've changed how many coordinators, you know, their head coach has changed. Until I see it, and now they, you know, they invested in the running game a little more with Travion Henderson, so I think they're going to want to put the football on the ground more often. I think they're going to run more than what it's going to mean for Drake May to be able to break out as a passer, if that makes sense. Where I think Chicago, they want to primarily put the ball through the air. I think in Jacksonville, they want to put the ball through the air. I think if you're going to have a breakout quarterback, he's got to be able to be a pass first offense with legs. I think in fantasy football, you want a dual threat quarterback and a pass first offense. That's kind of like where elite category goes, right? For the most part. All right, let's see what's going on. All right, we have plenty of options that I like here. You know, I have the first guy where the news was bad for me all year. It feels like I've been on the better side of news from how I've drafted is Tajay Spears. I've been drafting a pretty good amount, and now he had this ankle sprain, might miss a couple weeks. I don't think it's horrible because, you know, it means that he'll slide in drafts and maybe that's a good value, but it gives you a little bit of nervous because then he could be fighting with that all year long. So I'm a little disappointed to hear that news, but he should be okay. And at least he's not a dead roster spot right now for me. But I've slowed down on drafting him just simply for that reason. Although here, I think I'm going to take him. I haven't taken him in a while. ADP of 128, getting him at 153. Feels like it's a perfectly acceptable time to throw him on a team like this. May's not afraid to throw it, right? Yeah, no, he's definitely not. I think he wants to be a slinger. He's got an arm, he's a big bodied guy. So I think he's built to last, right, in that regard. He's not Lamar style of a runner. He's more of I would call him a Josh Allen style of player. So I think he's got the right build to do it. He wasn't as high profile of a player as, like, say, Josh Allen. I don't think they're the same guy, but I definitely think he showcases the right tools to be a breakout guy. I just think the offense will maybe not be pass first. And I think that's the only limitation that I could see for him being a true elite breakout. But I definitely like him. I don't want to steer anybody away from him. I would highly encourage you to draft Drake May. And where he goes in drafts is absolutely fine. I'm just not going out of my way to say, he's not my guy. He's not the guy that I have to have, even though I do like him. All right. Look, my man Rashad White will come on down for our 5th running back. And one thing you'll notice on this team is that I have prioritized pass catching running backs. Extra ways to get points is never a bad way in best ball and in fantasy football. We like pass catching running backs. Fantasy Dog says you can definitely tell the influx of drafters, whereas players fall in 20, 30 picks for no reason. Yeah, absolutely. This time of year is when you get a lot more of the redraft players, the standard players who are just now getting ready to prepare for their drafts, and they're going, all right, who do I pick? What do I do? And I've been drafting, and you, Fantasy Dog, we've been drafting since April or May, and we've probably drafted hundreds of teams and seen all types of teams, and already kind of have an idea of what works and what teams look good, but that's where we can take advantage of it. All right. A little bit of run on wide receivers. Geno Smith goes. Don't need quarterbacks. Please keep taking them. Don't need them. Don't want them. So what do we have? How many picks left do we have? We have 4 more picks. We're all set at quarterback. We will need 2 tight ends and 2 wide receivers with our last 4 picks is probably what I'm going to do here. Yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to do. 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. We'll be done at running back. I think our room is fine. And then our quarterbacks are definitely fine when you have Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love. So we're strictly wide receiver, tight end through this end of this draft. Thanks, 20-second clock. Yeah, I when this year when it started and I saw the 20-second clocks, I was like, I don't know, that might be just a little bit too fast. But at the same time, you get more drafts in for people like us that draft a lot of teams, which is good. But then also you have the advantage of there might be people who are less prepared, panic, drunk people that don't pay attention, whatever it is, and it automatically kind of gives you maybe an advantage that you're, not thinking of in that way, I guess. So I don't hate them. I've learned a lot to like the 20-second, and I think the 20-second clock is going to end up being the best one to go with. So I feel good about it. All right. So I think I'm going to try and knock out these tight ends first before they fall off a cliff. The guy I really wanted was Chig down here, but he is gone. But I just thought of something. Might do something crazy. Don't shoot me. But I'm thinking about it. So what I'm thinking about is putting a Jackson Dart New York team together here. And just stopping at 7 wide receivers and throwing Jackson Dart on this team. I don't want to ruin this team, but Theo Johnson, by the way, is an athletic freak. Just wasn't healthy in his rookie year. He's going in the 18th round, which, by the way, is why I typically like to punt the tight end position to later in drafts, because there's just so many guys that are worth taking shots on that are going to be on the field enough to hopefully make up the points, where I feel like it's a good decision to have to wait on tight end and to really have strong running back, wide receiver, and quarterback rooms. I just think that what you gain sometimes is not as much. In redraft league, I feel a little bit differently. I definitely want to have a capable tight end in a redraft league, but in best ball, it's a little bit different approach. Shamrock says, looks like Mason Taylor's making a pretty fast turnaround. Yeah, what was interesting with him is, like, they had that, news come out. Oh, he hurt himself. He wasn't feeling good. He was getting drafted much higher. And now all of a sudden he's back in practice. They had a high ankle sprain. It's good development. I like rookies. I like to take chances on people in the late rounds like that. And when I get Justin Fields, he is my favorite person to double stack with Garrett Wilson. But I am starting to get, let me see where he is. I am starting to flex in Josh Reynolds now, because they released the depth chart and he's wide receiver 2 in the depth chart. And so when I get Justin Fields, I kind of want to flex him in too. And he's going undrafted in so many teams. Like, Josh Reynolds is probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess he's being drafted in like 10% of teams. So if Justin Fields balls out and he's the guy you needed in week 17 and you haven't correlated with him, the advantage you get is huge, because he'll be so low owned, right? And so you gotta get those small wins where you can. So I'm sprinkling in some Reynolds with my Justin Fields teams. I generally will not take him on any other team but a Justin Fields team, because that's when it makes sense. All right. Wide receiver here. Feel like I just click too much Michael Wilson. I just really love his value. I probably should just stop, if I'm being honest. If I had Kyler Murray, I'd double stack him, but I'm not gonna do that either, because I've already got Josh Downs. Let's do this. With Diami Brown, I think it's interesting with him because, sorry, 1 second. I'm debating on not grabbing Jackson Dart here, and I'm trying to talk myself out of it in my head. I'm saying, don't do it. Where is Wix? What's Wix's situation? I don't know. I've slowed down on Wix too. I'm going to go ahead and get Jahan Dotson and double stack him with Jalen Hurts. That makes more sense. We don't really, if I didn't have Jalen Hurts in the team, I would throw a third quarterback on here, but that's just me being ambitious. I'll find another way to play him later. I think this makes more sense, and getting an 8th wide receiver is probably the better way to do it. So recapping the team, we've got Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love at quarterback, Ashton Genty, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne, Tajay Spears, Rashad White at running back. We have Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison, Rome, Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Rashid Shaheed, Diami Brown, Jahan Dotson, wide receiver. Tight end, we have Dallas Goedert, K-Dot, and Theo Johnson. We did double stack Philly with Jahan Dotson and Dallas Goedert with our man Jalen Hurts. And then with Jordan Love, we did stack him with Jaden Reed. Green Bay plays Baltimore in week 17. We do not have any of that comeback or correlation there. Philly plays Buffalo, and we do not have a Buffalo. So we don't have any week 17 bring back. I like the last team we drafted a little bit better. But I do think there's some fun in this and some unique in this, which makes it still valuable, because things like having Harrison falling on the right side of the board is a little bit rare, right? So there are some things here that make this team a little bit unique. We still have them stacked, so still capable of winning. Maybe not my favorite team, but I don't hate it either. So I don't feel like I at least wasted, my money, so to speak. Shamrock says Tim Patrick had a couple spike games with the Lions last year. Yeah, he did. I've got Tim Patrick on maybe one or two teams with Jared Goff, just as a like a wide receiver 8, threw it in there because of that low owned piece. You like Turpin as a nobody's drafting him pick for Dallas. Yeah. I can see that. He's a little further down the depth chart there. Like Dallas, I would rather have, their wide receiver 3 than their 4, but I don't hate him. Noah Brown. Yep. I think I've got Noah Brown on my list as well with Washington. When I get Jaden Daniels, I like to get Noah Brown as a bring back. For a late stack with him too. So I'm with you there. All right. So let's real quick. Let me just go back and look at a couple things. So completed drafts. That's 478 for that season, but I've got all these other ones I've drafted too. So we're clearly over 500 drafts now, by far, overall. And we've got 106 shot entries already into Best Ball Mania 6. So we have 44, right? If I'm doing my quick math right, 44 more to go. And just kind of glancing at exposure rates a little bit, just to kind of ground myself at how things have changed. My Josh Allen's definitely come up. I don't know why, but I keep falling into Sam Darnold teams. And it's not because I love Sam Darnold either. I really need to just stop, because if y'all saw in preseason, Jalen Milroe looked awesome. And I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that I've drafted as much Sam Darnold as I have. So I need to intentionally chill on Sam Darnold. Unless I absolutely have to have him. Anthony Richardson is going down on my percentage drafted, which I'm okay with that. I still have a good amount of him. I'm going to let him continue to fall a little bit, but have a healthy amount of him. I am worried about Matthew Stafford's back over the course of the season, so I'm a little bit nervous there with him. Because for a guy like me, I have back pain, I get it, and he plays professional football, and he's a little bit older than me, so should not be concerned, right? I get it. It could really affect his availability. But I really like how the rest of these are playing out. I've gotten my Jaden Daniels, Lawrence, and Hurts exposures up, Williams up. I feel pretty good about a lot of where these guys are falling. I probably need to get more on Lamar since I have so much Josh Allen, but let's look at the tight end room real quick. Travis Kelce is coming down a little bit. I was like 24% or something at one time. Kincaid's still up there. We talked about Mason Taylor earlier. He's my third drafted tight end, or third most drafted tight end. Love these late round tight ends. I've chilled on Gesicki now that as soon as they draft or traded for Noah Fant, I just left him alone. I'm trying to get more Kyle Pitts, actually. I like where he goes in drafts. I've got my McBride exposure up over 8%, so I feel good about that. Kittle's still low. Royo's still low. I like both those guys. Tyler Warren, I want more of. There's Theo. He's another one I really need to get more of before I'm done with these drafts. And I probably need more Cole Kmet, if I'm being honest. I think Cole Kmet's going to start the year as the tight end 1, and people are going to be surprised by that. There's my man, Jalen Warren. What did I tell you? 18% almost in terms of drafted. Tajay Spears, I've chilled on him. 15.4%. I want him to be okay. I want him to be not nagging injuries with his ankle, because he is my second most drafted running back right now. Same thing with Najee. He needs to get a new eye socket figured out real quick. But I guess the reason is that a lot of these guys, I've stopped picking some of these guys and started picking some other ones so I can move them down and move these up, right? So just so I can balance some of these later running backs. I seem to be more favoring certain ones. Trying to see who I'm kind of low on. Travian Henderson I want more of. Look, I even drafted some Zach Moss earlier in the year before he got cut. Yeah. I like Keaton Mitchell. Look at my Bucky. I'm just slapping him in the face. If Bucky goes off this year and he's like absolutely crushing it, he's not. We're gonna lose some money if Bucky's the guy. Yeah, because I don't have a lot of faith in Bucky. I don't have a lot of him. Period. And let's just take a quick peek at the wide receivers. Rome, Marv, Devonta, Tillman, Ricky. Yeah. Tyreek come down a little bit because I was getting more of him in the third round. When I look at my breakdown from a receiver standpoint, I really like how I've been drafting the receivers. I'm questioning my judgment on a couple of the late round running backs that I've done. But I really like how the receivers, I feel like I've done a nice job with how I feel about players and what the data has shown me about players. So feel pretty good about this. Probably need to get a little more CeeDee Lamb if I can, if he falls in my lap. Nico, I'm underweight on purpose because of my value in him. Ibuka's low because, again, I think he's getting pulled up too high. All right. Well, at least we kind of got an idea of kind of where I'm sitting on some of these guys. Let's see here. You're starting to scare me with those percents. Yeah, scaring myself sometimes. Moss got cut. Yeah, actually, you might have missed it. We were talking about that earlier. I think Shamrock and I were having that conversation. So basically, Moss got cut, and it wasn't because he is a bad player per se. He showed up to camp after his bad neck surgery, and he must not have rehabbed at all because he showed up fat and out of shape, and he was like winded on the sideline doing like wind sprints. And they're like, okay, this dude's fat and out of shape. Like, bye. So they cut him. So, yeah, they cut him not because of his neck. They cut him because they didn't feel like they needed him, and he was out of shape. So that's what happened. Do you study your percents weekly or something? Yeah, I look at my exposure percentages probably once a week. I don't do it I don't do it like before every draft. I don't do it daily. I do it like this where I'll just pop in, look at it. There is places you can go and upload your draft exposures, and they'll do an analysis for you. I've only done that once this year. I normally do it a little bit more owned or more often, but I haven't done it as much as I probably will. I think I'm going to do it one more time, like a bigger analysis, because you can do more than just this kind of analysis. You can find out, like, okay, on all my Josh Allen teams, how many times do I have him stacked with Keon Coleman? How many times do I have him stacked with Kincaid? How many times do they stack with and they play Philadelphia? Do I have Josh Allen with Devonta Smith at all? Do I have Josh Allen with AJ Brown? You can kind of do a serious evaluation of that to really understand. Do you have some biases that you don't know, right? That you don't realize, or holes in your portfolio that maybe you need to consider, right? So those are just some things that I'll probably take a look at one more time. Probably this week, actually, is what I'll do. But all right, I'm gonna jet out of here, guys. After the third draft of the night. Thank you guys for being on here. I appreciate you guys as always. Please share, please like, subscribe. I'll try and continue to go on every night leading up to the fantasy season. As we get a little closer, I may even do some longer streams if I can make the time. And maybe we'll do some 3-4 hour streams if I can swing that. If I get enough activity in here and this channel grows enough, then it'll be worth it. But I appreciate everybody that stopped by. Appreciate all the interaction. You guys are the best. That's what makes this fun, right? So hopefully you guys have a fantastic evening. Get some rest. And then Wednesday's here tomorrow, and we will crush more fantasy football drafts together on Wednesday. So you guys have yourself a good evening, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks.